I got a strange going on out here. Something just killed my dog.
Something killed your dog?
Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining the Cryptid Podcast. Today, you guys, well, I'm your host, as you can tell. But, hey, we got a really, really cool guest with an awesome mustache. We got Mark from Washington State. Now, he's currently living in Washington State. Now, he's from where I'm at right now in Minnesota. He's from a little town called Mora, Minnesota. And back in 2004, he had a sighting of a Sasquatch. But before we bring Mark onto the show, I just want to say thank you so much to every single person out there who's watching, joins in the lives that we do on Mysteries Unknown, or leaving any messages or comments, likes, shares for any content on this channel. Truly appreciate it. Now, let's let you know that I've started a membership for the Cryptid Podcast. It's $2.99 a membership, and with that, currently right now, for $2.99 you get early access to an exclusive Saturday release for members only. Now, as the channel progresses, I'll probably add a couple other things into that, just to make sure I feel that you're getting your worth for $3, so to speak. But other than that, if you guys have had a sighting of any kind and you're not quite sure what it is and you'd like to come on the show and share your encounter, go ahead and shoot me an email at thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com, thecryptidpodcast72@gmail.com. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and bring our guest on. Mark, how's it going, buddy?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. I'm doing well. It's funny is that when I called you, I was actually thinking I was calling Jason.
Oh, I see.
And then I'm like, that doesn't sound like Jason. And then I realized I kind of had that part of the message up still. And I'm like, oh, this is Mark.
Yeah.
So, hey, I'm glad you answered, and I'm glad you're an early riser. During the week, I'm up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning to get ready to go to work. But on the weekends, I probably don't roll out of bed until about 8 o'clock. But
At 4 o'clock, I can't seem to get. If sleeping in is like 5:30.
Yeah. So in our little pre-interview, just to get a little bit of information from you, you had stated that you're from a small town called Mora, Minnesota, and I'm kind of familiar with Mora. And you said that in 2004 you had your encounter in another town called Hinckley. Now, my question before we get into your story about Hinckley is what was your thought about Sasquatch before that sighting?
I didn't think they were anywhere around in Minnesota. I'd seen In Search of, and finding Bigfoot wasn't a thing at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I never really looked it up on internet or anything, so I just thought it was a Pacific Northwest thing and had no clue that they could be in Minnesota.
So when this happened, did this kind of change your thought process into going from not really sure that they're around up where you live to, okay, let's do some heavy research and let's get out there. Let's see what we can do?
Nope, I did not. Not until I came to Washington.
Okay. You know what? Hey, let's just go ahead and let you jump right in on your story. How about that?
Well, it's actually, my sighting story isn't really much to it. I was in my house. I lived in a split entry. And I was upstairs on the phone one night in November, talking to a friend of mine. And I don't remember what time it was, but it was dark. I had two of the yard lights, the sodium chloride yard lights, I think they're called. And it's an old dairy farm. I looked out, and there was this thing. I'm going to say I don't know. I didn't see it from the front at all. It was quartering away from me, walking right across my yard. It had been right underneath. If I would have noticed it earlier, it would have been right underneath one of those lights.
Really?
But I did it again, but it was quartering away, and the thing was massive. You see the head and, its shoulders, 2 feet, walking towards the old milk house on the dairy barn. And I'd stopped talking to my friend as I was like, what is this thing? And at that time, it had walked by the eave of the barn, of the milk house, and it had 8-foot eaves on it. And its head was still above, part of its head, say about here somewhere, was still above that eve. And I thought, holy crap, what is that thing? And it turned, there was a machine shed behind that where it got pretty shadowy.
Mm-hmm.
And it walked into that dark of the shadow of the machine shed, and it just turned and it walked down into what would have been the old silage pit. And it walked down into that and into the darkness and gone. Like I said, it was November, late November. There was no snow on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not go out that night. I watched it walk away, and nope, that's enough for me. Next morning, I went out, looked for tracks, but it was frozen solid.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not a track to be seen. And I said, I never thought about looking for them in Minnesota.
Yeah. That's I mean, so you're on the second floor of your house, and you're, like you said, you're on the phone. Now, when you stopped talking, did your friend say, "Hey, what's going on?"
Yeah, he did. He said, what's up? I said, there's something big walking across my yard. And he says, neighbor's horse got out or something. I said, well, my neighbor's horse is walking on 2 feet. And then we both dropped it.
Yeah.
Never said a word about it to each other again.
It's funny that he said horse, because I've heard, of course you hear the common, oh, it's a bear, but once in a while you'll hear someone say, oh, the neighbor's horse or the neighbor's cow, got out. And if people need to understand, that's how thick these things are. I mean, they're wide,
Yes.
and so, I mean, to put it to type of a comparison on how wide or how, just, massive they are, a horse or a cow is a really good kind of, comparison.
I saw a bear one day running through a field by Day, Minnesota. And that bear, that was a 600 plus pound bear.
Mm-hmm.
He was big boy. He was nowhere near. I mean, he's big, but he didn't look like this thing.
Right. And it's funny that you said that you gave us kind of like a height measurement and a comparison. Okay, so we had eaves on the house that were at 8 feet, and you're describing that the head was above a good 6 to 8 inches above those eaves. That's crazy. So did it kind of just?
And it was still, I'm gonna say 20 foot, 25 foot to the side of that milk house. So I mean, it wasn't right up next to the building either. It was still a ways away, and you could see that it was taller than the eave of that building.
Now, when you watch this thing walk through your yard, did it kind of seem like it was very comfortable with that area, like it has walked through that area
Yep.
before?
It didn't care. It nonchalant, just walking away and gone.
I know you said it was dark outside, but was there any way, like maybe some of the glow from the lights, did it kind of
Oh,
give off like a color of what this thing was?
you know, in your yard light, especially in the country, you can see what color people's vehicles are when you're driving around at night. You know, if you
Hmm.
look up in their yard. So yeah, I mean, you could see it was like an amber, not amber, auburn.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay. And, again, like you said, it just kind of walked off. And now, where the direction that it walked off to, what's out beyond,
well, that would go that towards that would be Hinckley would be in that direction, but there was a little patch of real thick wooded, but small trees,
yeah.
smaller trees, a lot of popple, birch, typical
Yep.
East Central Minnesota. There, and I'm going to say that's probably 30, 40 acres of
Really?
of trees in there. I haven't been back there in a long time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if those trees are even still there.
Yeah. I know. I know. I mean, just right behind my house, we have like a little. It's a park, but there's no like playground. It's just got walking paths and stuff through it,
Right.
and there's some pretty thick trees back in there, and it's not that big. It might be, I don't know, the wooded area might be 5 acres, if that, but it's still pretty thick back there in certain areas. But
Yeah.
So after that whole thing happened, you went out the next day, and again, guys, here in Minnesota, when it gets super cold, the ground freezes. The only way you're going to leave any type of track, print, or whatever is if there's snow on the ground, and it's not uncommon not to have snow around November, especially late November. But there are times where, well, heck, I'm sure. Well, you were here in '91, I assume.
Yep.
So
Halloween blizzard.
Yep, Halloween. And you guys, when I say Halloween blizzard, and Mark can attest to this, it locked Minneapolis, St. Paul down. Like there was not inches of snow, there were feet of snow.
Got 3 foot overnight.
Yeah, 3 feet of snow overnight, and it literally locked the city down. Like there was no businesses open, public transportation wasn't running. I wasn't here in '91. I was over in Germany, but I heard about it, after I came up here to Minnesota in '98, but and I never thought about, like you did, never would have thought about Sasquatch in Minnesota. My sighting was in Washington State. And just recently, probably within the last 6 to 8 months, I've heard of multiple sightings not 20 minutes away from my house, around Blaine and Centerville, Lino Lakes, around that area. So
Oh, I can't think. There's a wildlife management area and stuff. That's that whole area, isn't it?
Rice Creek, they have Rice Creek.
Rice Creek. Yeah, that's
Yep.
what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. 5,500 acres of marsh, wetlands, woods. It's like they have lakes that all connect. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm going to be doing a little bit of research when it gets a little bit warmer, so I can kind of walk around and see what I can find out. So let me ask you. So after that encounter, you said you've been up here, or you've been in Washington State, for what you said, 11 years.
Yep.
So have you encountered anything in Washington State? Not necessarily a sighting, but maybe a Class B, like you were maybe out. Because to me, you look like you're an outdoorsy guy. So
I've had a few. I had gone in after a motor grader, Texas oil field. It's a blade.
Mhm.
So I got sent in 16 miles off the road for this blade. And at that time, I had never taken a lowboy out in the mountains. I was just got here. And a friend of mine, the one that actually got me my job here, he was coming out as I was going in with a dozer. And we'd stopped, and I said, well, how far is it? And he says, he's a Hawaiian, so it's bra. It's a long way, bra. I said, all right. Can we get turned around? He says, oh, yeah, easily. You'll see where I turned around. I drove in, and I come across this corral in this little open area, middle of the mountains. And you could see where somebody had turned around there. And, there was tracks, dual tires back in the grass. And I thought, well, I wonder if this is where he had turned around. And if it is, that blade's got to be close by. So I just parked that old Peterbilt and jumped out, and I started walking. And the road took a 90. Well, if it's here, it's going to be close. So I walked around that 90, and I started walking down the road a bit. And I took a step, and I couldn't hear that Peterbilt run. I thought, what the hell? That truck just died. Oh, great. So I turned around and started walking back, take a couple steps, and I could hear it run. Well, there's this rock wall there that absorbed the sound, however you want to say that. On the other side of it, I could not hear that truck run. Well, I'm going to walk up here a little bit further, and as I walked up there, I could hear two beings talking to each other. And I couldn't, language that I'd never even, couldn't fathom it. Never heard anything like it. And it was close by, and huckleberries were out, and it was real close by. And there was a little, a cut in the road where when they cut the road in, there was a little mound of dirt and trees and whatever. And I walked up on top of that because they were right there. And I could hear them talking plain as day, like you and I now. I walked up on top of that to see, who is there. And there was nothing. Absolutely nothing. I couldn't see anything but, mountains, trees, huckleberry bushes. But I could feel, like I was being watched, which in that situation I think would be normal. But but they stopped talking because I could, like, they'd noticed that I'm standing there. And I'm still looking around going, what is this? And I heard what sounded like a dog whining, but just like a whine of a dog or a wolf. And that jarred me, and I turned around and I noped it right on back to that Peterbilt. I didn't stick around there at all. I actually had to drive right through there to go get that blade. But I'd never heard anything remotely like that in my life.
Yeah, that's. I mean,
until I heard Moorhead's recordings.
Yeah,
and that's not what I heard. I guess I don't know how to put it.
like the samurai chatter.
It's samurai chatter, but the some of the noises on there was nothing like. I think it's the more famous what you hear on there.
Yeah.
But the samurai chatter is hits it right on the head.
That's so crazy. That really is. It's funny. One, you noticed this rock wall and it was buffering the sound from your Peterbilt. And then as you walked down a little ways, you all of a sudden heard the samurai chatter. You heard people, what you thought were people talking. And it's funny you mentioned huckleberries, because a mutual friend of ours had an encounter with something
Yep.
eating huckleberries. But I'm just kind of putting myself in your place when you're kind of climbing this little mound of dirt and you're standing on top, and it just went quiet all of a sudden. You know, I mean, if the same situation was with our mutual friend, you could have stood up there all day long, because they were right below you, and they were, but they went silent and they stopped moving, and that you're not going to see them.
I to this day I don't understand it. If like, it could be that just like you just said, that they just stop moving.
Yeah.
Your eye isn't attracted. It bothered me, and still does, because there's nothing there.
Yeah.
No cars around. I never saw another vehicle but the truck coming out when I was going in. That was the only vehicle in that 16 miles.
Imagine if your friend would stop there and heard that stuff.
He even if he heard anything, he's not the type that would tell you.
Yeah. So after that encounter, did you happen to have anything else?
With our mutual friend Jason.
Really? You want to get into
Elk
that?
hunting.
Okay.
I'd never been elk hunting before. I had met Jason through his Facebook group, and he had set up a wall tent, and we met up and stood around the campfire that night and afternoon, and we heard what sounded like whoops off in the distance. And I have two rocks that I carry in my Jeep. I call them my Lucky Clackin' rocks. I had actually went back to that area where I heard the speaking on it was a big weekend, like Memorial or something, with my then wife, and I picked up these two rocks and slapped them together a couple of times, and it probably was a camper. I heard what sounded like a wood knock a little while later. I mean, not 30 seconds later, and like 20 seconds later, it was what sounded like a wood knock, but there was a camp in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
But I just always call them my Lucky Clackin' rocks after that. Well, I pulled these rocks out, and Jason says, "Yeah, do that." And I smacked them together a couple times, and we never heard a thing again. Well, opening morning was next morning, so we went to bed. We were laying in bed, and we had what people call a wood knock, but I mean the power knock right outside the tent, and that you could feel it in your body. Loud. It was that one that was unforgettable. It freaked me out, actually. I didn't want to be alone there the rest of that season.
Right.
But never heard anything that loud like that. I mean, if you think it's somebody hitting a tree with a piece of wood, I think the tree's going to fall down from being hit, if you understand what I'm saying.
It was that loud.
It was that loud.
See, here's my theory on that. Granted, hearing tree knocks or rock clacks, they're awesome. Hearing the whoops and the howls off in the distance are awesome. You know, do we truly understand what they use these for? No, some people have theories, guesses, you know. So what do we do? Oh, I heard them do it. Why don't we do it? And
Right.
you got your lucky clacking rocks. And my guess is there's a big boy in the area, and he goes, "Hmm, okay, some stupid human wants to play games. Well, I'm gonna show him." And what he did is he set out to come and show you guys, "Oh, you want to hear a knock? Okay, I'll hear you a knock." And he scared the hell out of you.
Like I said, I didn't want to be there alone after that season. The next season, I stayed there alone purposely because I just don't like to. I don't want to be afraid of something that I don't know.
Right.
And there's an area that we kind of thought maybe they were staying in because there's a little dark, heavily forested ravine.
Right.
But I'd walked up in there, and Jason had to go do something. And I stayed there for a couple of days by myself. Just, there was more experiences there too, but that wasn't mine. It was somebody else he had a tree pushed down at him.
Really?
Yeah. Guy that was hunting with was named Herman. But that's Herman's story.
Right.
Not mine. So.
Yeah. I mean, I completely understand that. So, after you have that power, like you said, I think you called it correctly, a power knock. A lot of people think that they take and they kind of cup their hands and they'll smack the side of a tree, or they'll smack their hands together.
It could be with their mouth.
Yeah.
So much, we have no idea.
Right. It's just the possibility of what these things can do and what their strength is. And I think one of the biggest, in my opinion, there's two examples of potentially how strong they are. Lifting massive boulders, and I'm not talking like 2-ton boulders and press them over the head. I'm talking, these rocks that weigh, 150, 200 pounds, and they're just tossing them like they're nothing. Or they're ripping a green tree completely out of the ground, and they're inverting it and slamming it back into the ground. So now you've got the top of the tree embedded into the ground and it's standing straight up with its roots exposed. Anything that can do something like that, that's crazy. And for people to say, "Oh, well, the tree," no, listen, my family were loggers up in Alaska. I've watched a lot of these logging shows and stuff. And, they have equipment that can rip a tree up and then invert it and stick it in. But the thing is, those machines always leave one thing behind, and that's tracks. And those tracks tear.
Tree too.
Exactly. Okay. One, you don't see any signs of any type of equipment being out there at all. So for anybody to say, "Oh, well, it's someone playing," no, they're not playing a prank. And there are very well documented sightings and locations of where these inverted trees are. So after you had that power knock, did anything else happen?
Not that year. No.
Not that year.
I remember the next day we were out looking for elk. And I was up ahead of Jason. I turned around and walked back to him. I looked at him and said, "Some Sasquatch researchers we are. We had one in our camp last night and we never even went and looked for a track."
Yeah.
Yeah, we just got up and went elk hunting. We never did find tracks either.
It's just how these things can move, it's
Well, like Brackman says, big fatty feet, soft fatty feet, cushion. And that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. They're not going to leave a track unless it's mud or sand, snow. Um, if you're lucky, they step in moss, and you'll see an impression on moss.
The next year we did find a track, and
Really?
we should have casted it in hindsight. I mean, you couldn't see it. I don't. We had found it. It was just the strangest. It was a real foggy morning. I mean, you couldn't see very damn far at all. And I had Herman with me, and we were walking on this old cut going up, and there was a bull moose with 2 cows right above us, and he thought we were a moose, and he come down. There's a draw, and he's coming right at us because we're getting between him and his cows.
Mm-hmm.
To him, and he come down that draw, and I had my 338 up going, oh no, this is terrible.
Oh yeah.
And he must have caught wind of us, and he turned around, he was gone. But because of that, we started to watch real close, because we'd gone up to where he is where we were going to meet Jason.
Mm-hmm.
So we circled around, and we were right up in that little clearing. And so we're watching for this bull, just make sure he didn't come back, and watching the ground for his tracks and whatever. And I happened to stumble on this track, and it was just an impression at first. You could see the outline of a foot, but it wasn't great. But it was in the ground, probably 4 inches. It was wet here. And I mean, even like the moose track, we're going in a couple inches,
Right.
But me and Jason both put our hands inside, and you could feel the toes in the mud. And there's no claws or anything, it was big feet.
Yeah.
And we didn't have any plaster of Paris or any, hydrocal or nothing with us, because we're elk hunting.
Yeah.
And never went back to, the go get anything or like that. We're quite a ways out to go to do that. But boy, that was a mistake. We should have. That would have been a really, really good cast. And at that time, there was none of the of these apps to scan them.
Yeah, I've heard a couple of those apps. I've actually seen people like video to take their phone out, and they're and I'm like, what are they doing? And then they show the scan of the footprint. I'm like, get out of here. And then I think that they can take that file, they can save a file of that scan, then they can 3D print it. That's pretty cool.
I don't know if that was even a thing then. I've still never used one of those apps, because I have them on my phone, but I haven't found anything since.
Right.
So,
yeah, man, Mark, bro, I mean, your sighting is crazy. Like, it's just nonchalantly walking through your yard, and then then you hear the voices, and then you have that power knock literally right outside your tent.
The ex-wife had I write everything down in maps so I can find that area again, and this area I can't find on the map. And I know I wrote it down, so I must have put it in a different map book.
Yeah.
But I drove up. I got to know where roads go, and I drove my Jeep up on this road, and she had to pee, and it come to a gate, so I had to turn around. So she went off to do her business, and I turned Jeep around, and for some reason I got out. I don't know why, but I got out of the Jeep. And she come booking down that road, running as fast as she could, saying, "It's right behind me. It's right behind me. It's right behind me." And I had a stub nose 357 on me. I pulled that, and I thought to myself, "What are you doing? If it's a grizzly, you got a stub nose 357 with 5 rounds. This isn't
Mm-hmm.
good." But there was nothing behind her. But she had gone up, and she could hear talking. What she says, which actually was a very good way of describing it, is a radio playing, but you can't quite understand. You can't make out what they're saying, but you can hear the radio,
Yep.
like talk radio.
Mm-hmm.
That describes it really well. She could hear that, and then it charged, and she took off running, and it paralleled her back to the Jeep. She wasn't terribly far away. I did not hear anything but her yelling at me that is right behind her. And she didn't have to pee anymore after that. She just wanted to leave and get out of here. So I start the Jeep, take off, and well, what's going on? And she told me, I said, holy crap.
Yeah.
We got to come back here. And now I can't remember where it was. I've been so many places, I can't remember where that one is.
Yeah,
that's Idaho, I believe, though.
It's that whole area, the Pacific Northwest, and a lot of people don't understand. I consider the northern part of Idaho and the western part of Montana part of the Pacific Northwest because they're all in that range right there. You
Right.
know, so you've got like, and I even call, Northern California, Oregon, northern Idaho, Washington, and east in western Montana, all that area. Then you have Vancouver, BC, right there and stuff. It's when I had my sighting, I was 12 and I lived in Graham, Washington, and that's just what is that? Kind of like northeast of Tacoma, and when I saw it, I had already seen the Patterson Gimlin film. I'd seen In Search Of, with Leonard Nimoy, and
Yep.
And, that's what got me fascinated with Sasquatch. And that was years before I even had my sighting. And I always was, always thinking when I was looking at these books in the library, I think it was like 1 or 2 books. I wish I remember the name of them. But, I'm thinking, well, I know that, I know they're in California. California's close to Oregon. Maybe they're in Oregon. I wonder if they get up to
Right.
Washington State, and then when I saw my sighting, one, I was terrified, but inside I was super, super excited because I'm thinking in my mind, they're here. I knew they would be here, so,
Right.
but, yeah, it's just, I didn't talk about it for a long, long time, I just didn't. And, it's, because I didn't want to be, criticized or,
Right.
told I was stupid or I was lying or I was making something up. And, when you have 2 of the closest people to you encounter the same thing you encountered, my dad saw it when I saw it. And then later on, like a couple weeks, maybe a month or so later, my little brother let us know that, oh, I've seen 2 small ones around here. So we had a family unit living in the area that where I had my encounter. So, but yeah, it was, I just love this stuff. I've been fascinated ever since I was a little kid. So, but let me ask you this: what do you think they are?
I don't know. I think they have to be at least part human or a relative of ours, but we won't know until the discovery day. That's how you want to put it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let me ask you. I mean, you saw that one in Hinckley or near Hinckley. Um, if you had the opportunity to see one again, would you want that opportunity?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd like to see, the face
Yeah.
instead of just the back of it.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Um, any words of advice for people out there that think they're just gonna get a knapsack together and put it over their shoulder and go out in the woods and look for things? What's some advice for those people?
Not everything is Sasquatch. That's the big thing now, and
Yeah.
half what you're hearing, I think, there's a lot of what you're hearing that isn't true.
Oh,
And
for sure.
it's just made up stories and attention.
And I don't know how active you are on Facebook or in if you are, how active you are in some of the groups, but really what really bothers me, now, I'm not disclaiming anybody. I'm not trying to discredit anybody um of them having some type of an encounter. But when you see these people put just dozens and dozens of pictures and then they start drawing, you know, red
Circle.
circles or yellow circles or white
Yeah.
circles around something, there's
Pretty
no
tough.
there yeah, there's nothing there. Really, there isn't. It's pareidoia. You know, now I have had some a really good friend of mine who is a very active researcher. He has sent me some pictures and I'm like, what am I looking at? And then because I see something and I just want to make sure hey, what are you
Right.
trying to show me here? And then he'll send me a picture back and he has something circled that isn't even what I'm looking at. And I'm like,
Right.
bro, uh, are you not seeing this in the picture? And then I'll send him back a picture with what I'm seeing. And he's like, holy smokes, I didn't even see it. Like he sent me a picture or something. I'm like, what am I looking at? And he sends it. And I go, bro, that's not what caught my eye. And I sent him the picture back and I'd circled what I had seen. And it is a face and it's kind of going like this around a tree. And I'm like, how did you not see that? But you're pointing at this. This looks like an old
Right.
stump. This, you know? But
There's good pictures out there.
there really are. I have.
You aren't going to find them on the internet.
Oh no! And if you do, it's because some people want to, just want that out there to let them know, hey, there's something in an area.
Yeah.
So I have another. Let me show you this video. I don't know if you've seen this video, but I got a buddy of mine who has a friend that took this from his like security camera.
Mhm.
Check this. It's only 35 seconds. Tell me what you think about this.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Now, I've had Doug Highcheck look at that. He's already ruled out AI. It's definitely not AI. Someone brought up the thing, if this is from a security camera, um, why are we hearing a dog whining in the background?
Right.
But again, I don't know much about security cameras, so I don't know, if again, I don't know, but from what I understand, that fence is 8 feet tall. Just as it's coming out of the shadow, it kind of moves a little bit. You kind of see some shine on the face, so and then that tells me, that's probably it's part of its face. It moves over, it bends down. What it's doing is it's peeling back a live trap like a sardine can, and it's reaching in and grabbing a raccoon, and it walks back off to the area. Now let me. I had another guest of mine, friend. I consider him a friend. He sent me this audio. Tell me what you think about this audio. This is crazy, right?
I heard. Ooh, that's a different sound.
What'd you think of that?
That's pretty good.
That wahoo, and then right at the end, you hear that whoop, which was close. They said that it was just on the other side of their camp, like yards away.
We got some. I've done some audio recording. The best. I've got some stuff that's people think. Don't want to name names and stuff, whatever. But
Yeah.
they think that it's target species, but it's nowhere near as good as that. I mean, I got a couple of good knocks and some the metallic sounds and stuff, but nothing like that.
You know, the metallic sounds, those interest me. I mean, it's you're out in the middle of nowhere and you're hearing some people would describe it as like a large, like metal door opening or closing.
Yes.
Um,
Or something being banged on and
yep.
there's nothing around to bang on.
Like you're legit like miles, miles and miles inside the woods. You know,
Where
it makes me think that is there a possibility that there may have been like an old logging camp somewhere back in the day, like 100 years ago, and there's some of the old equipment that may have been left behind for whatever reason, and they've commandeered this, or they know that this area is here and they just go to it and they decide, oh, I like the way this sounds, and I'm going to start beating
right.
the heck out of it, you know? You know, and think about it. You're out there camping or you're hiking, elk hunting, and, you know, it's 5, 6, 7 in the morning. It's all peaceful and quiet. And all of a sudden you hear this loud metallic bang and you're like, what was that?
You know, elk hunting, that probably wouldn't for me because, you know, growing up deer hunting in Minnesota, you'd hear stuff, you know, because there's people.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you'd hear a car door slam or, you know, something, you know, an old tin roof, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the corrugated metal. You would hear that. So I don't know if I would make any kind of other connection while hunting just for that reason.
Right.
Most of the time I've hunted, there's been quite a few people around. I mean, not. I mean, like we had 300 acres and there was 4 of us,
Mm-hmm.
but not like here where when you're out there, you're the only people around and quite a ways.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Well, my friend, I think we had an amazing conversation and hopefully we could talk some more.
All right.
And, you know, I think between you and Mark and Ernie, um, I mean, you, Jason, and Ernie. Sorry, man. I was looking at your name.
Yeah.
I think that you know, it's just some really, really interesting and intriguing encounters that I've heard. I mean, I've heard a lot of encounters, but I mean, these are 3 that just immediately come right to the forefront of, you know, just the detail that you've provided and the circumstances under, you know, behind them, you know. So yeah, and when you're out and about, man, I strongly suggest that you know, you leave those rocks in that Jeep.
Oh, they are. They're still there to this day.
Just leave them in there. Don't take them out and start cracking because you just don't know.
Oh, the right situation, I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Just,
There you go.
you know, duplicating though. Try to get them to do it again. But, you know, I went on a BFRO expedition last year and
Yeah,
they're,
nothing.
no, well, they found a track. I was in on casting it, but it
Yeah,
was a good time. Don't get me wrong.
yeah,
I had a lot of fun at it,
yeah,
but I don't know. I'd
yeah.
do it again, but on different circumstances.
Yeah. There's an area um, that's close to me, and I mean, you know who Doug Highcheck is, correct?
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
we've dubbed this area the Double H for Highcheck and Hamilton, and and when he starts feeling a little better and when it gets a little warmer, I think we're gonna try to get into that area and maybe. I mean, I'm not speaking for Doug, but he's definitely said he would like to go back in there and kind of see what's going on. And what's really cool is that this area, some botanists from the University of Minnesota gained access to this area. This area is all fenced off. It's owned by a hunting club, and they were able to get back there. They got special permission. I guess they had been just hounding these people, and finally, like, okay, yeah, you can go back there, just don't mess anything up. And you know what they found? They found flora in this area that is known to be extinct through the entire state of Minnesota, yet it's thriving in this area.
Really?
Different types of plants, different types of flowers that are completely gone from all other parts of Minnesota, but they're thriving here.
Interesting.
Yeah. And the hunting club, they also own the rights to what's underneath, because it encompasses a lake. Like this, their area, they have this giant lake on there. And it's funny, there's some people walking around that area, but not in the restricted area. I'll call it the restricted area. And they witnessed a Sasquatch crossing the lake, walking across the ice to get to this island that's in the middle of the lake. And there's some houses that on the other side kind of are close to that lake. And those people that own those houses have seen things as well. So it makes you want to get over there, maybe do some door knocking.
Right.
And try to get firsthand accounts. And then Doug's going to try to get me in touch with a couple people that has witnessed it along the area as well. So
cool.
But yeah, man, I had a lot of fun talking to you this morning, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for making time for me, and we'll keep in touch.
Hell, thanks for having me on.
All right, buddy. You want to stay in the lobby a second? I'll get right back to you as soon as we close. Hey, everybody, that's our show for today. You guys, I'm going to tell you right now, this was a great interview, in my opinion. I really like talking to Mark, just on how he has this outlook on things, especially when he's out and around. He's not going to come out and just say, "Oh, I saw a Sasquatch," or "I heard a Sasquatch." He's going to rationalize everything, and there's nothing wrong with that. I wish that a lot of other people would do that as well. These things don't just show themselves to show themselves. You have to have a certain type of personality. I believe they can read your body language. They can read your aura, so to speak. So if they're going to show themselves to you, I look at that as a treat. Always keep your eyes open, your ears open. Stop looking on the ground. Look up. Look around. You're gonna encounter things. You're gonna see things that's always been there. It's just you've never noticed them. So with that being said, you guys, as my buddy Josh always says, stay prayed up. And as I always like to say, remember, a legend always begins with a sighting. Have a great day, guys, and I'll talk to you later.
I got a strange going on out here. Something just killed my dog.
Something killed your dog?